Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Before we get started, please remember to hit the subscribe button and the little bell so you'll get notified of all my latest and greatest. I had a request recently to do a video about one of the holidays this season, so I am trying to oblige. Today, we're going to talk about one of the many holidays that take place this time of year. For those of you who do not know, between the dates of November 1st and January 15th, there's approximately 29 different holidays celebrated. Today, I have my paper, as y'all are thoroughly aware of, I'm sure. Today, we are going to be talking about Yule, or as it's also known, Yuletide. Now, keep in mind, this is scratching the surface, as always. If I had done the paper how I would have liked, we would be here over an hour. So just keep that in mind as I go through what Yule is and how it's celebrated. What is Yule? Yule is the celebration of the winter solstice. Yule comes from the Old Norse word Yule. I'm sure my country accent is not pronouncing it exactly as it is pronounced in Norse, so please forgive me. Yule is celebrated for 12 days, starting on the winter solstice, which is the darkest day of the year. This holiday, which involves drinking too much, way too much, and consuming the food from slaughtered animals, lasts up to 12 days, hence the 12 days of Christmas. However, it was not always 12 days long. There are records of it lasting only as long as the ale did. I could see that. This event has been around for centuries. During the 12 days of Yule, starting on the winter solstice, crops are harvested to make a meal. Trees are decorated with pine cones, greenery, and candles, and gifts are exchanged with loved ones. Now, I'm just going to take a minute here and appreciate my first ever, or our first ever, real tree. It is the cutest little thing, and you just have to appreciate it. Anyway, so back to the greenery. Druids would give mistletoe, which commonly grows on oak trees, as a blessing to symbolize life. The Celts believed the sun stood still for 12 days during the darkest time of the year, and they would light logs to keep away evil and welcome in good fortune. Puts a little bit of a new meaning to bonfires. The Yule log also dates back this far and is also decorated with candles and berries, which gets placed on an altar. Originally, it was a whole fucking tree. Anyway, if you want to know more about the Yule log, be sure to check out my video. I will post the link in the description to this video. Anyway, is any of this ringing any reindeer bells quite yet? It should be. By the 900s, not 900s, Yule was already plotted on by the Christian celebration of Christmas and its surrounding festivities. The Christian feast of the Nativity was put during the 12 days of Yule to try and sway pagans to their one and only God. Some Celtic traditions say that it's the time of year when the Holly King, who represents the dark half of the year, gives away to the Oak King. The idea of these two battling gods represents the ever-changing seasons and the cycle of the sun. Now, that's a whole nother video that I really want to do about the Holly King and Oak King. That story is pretty cool. Like the Celts, Nordic people celebrated the end of the year and the return of the sun, the completion of another yearly cycle of life, death, and rebirth. According to Norse historian Hollander, every 9 years, Germanic Norse farmers were compelled to come to the temple of Hof and make sacrifices and feast over a period of time during Yuletide. Yule was celebrated in Germanic countries with animal sacrifices where they used the blood of the sacrificed animal to paint the altar, temple post, and the supplicant himself as part of the ritual. He was quite literally washed in blood. This was followed by feast, storytelling, and drinking around a large communal fire. If any of you are fans of the show Vikings, you will know at least they got a small portion of that right. Some of the good episodes too. This was also a time of oath-making. Business deals, marriages, that sort of thing was brokered. The priest who was in charge of the temple wore a large, gaudy-ass gold ring around his neck. Those who would swear an oath laid their hands on this ring and made their pledge in front of witnesses. King Haakon, pardon my pronunciation, of Norway, who was, as you guessed it, a Christian, passed a law that the Christian Christmas Day and the pagan Yuletide celebrations were to be celebrated at the same time henceforth. While this only impacted the Norwegian territories, it illustrated how these festivals were intentionally combined into one celebration. Though the sacrifices and religious practices of Yule were abandoned for that time, many Yuletide customs have continued, thankfully. And a lot of the celebrations we have today come from Yuletide. So, anyway, if you move the map over a little bit, then when Christianity spread throughout Europe, many pagan winter solstice traditions were incorporated into Christmas celebrations, including, but not limited to, the return of the sun. In ancient Egypt, the return of Ra, the sun god, was celebrated as a way of thanking him for warming the lands and crops. With this festival of sun, for so many, there is no surprise light is an important element. Flickering candles, bonfires, twinkling lights, and the traditional lighting of the tree. I'm very happy with my tree. This celebration of the slow return of the light. And if I stutter too much there, by doing all this, it's a way to honor the light returning to the land. Since after this day, after the winter solstice, the days start to get longer. However, in Nordic tradition, the focus seems to be more on the deities associated with the wild hunt, including and the hopes for the fertility to come in the planting and harvest season ahead. The winter solstice was a particular ominous night when Odin was said to ride through the skies with the wild hunt, collecting the souls of the dead. So everyone stayed indoors feasting. No one dared to go outside, lest they get caught alone and abducted by the wild hunt. Now, the wild hunt in itself is another one that I cannot wait to do a whole separate video on. That mythology is quite intriguing to me. It is customary that no work is done during Yule holiday. From the Germanic sources, there are stories of the goddess punishing those who had left work undone. Now that's interesting. I didn't notice when I was writing my paper. The Nordic tradition with this same goddess that we just talked about makes an appearance in Germanic sources. Interesting how large that is. Anyway, in the Icelandic saga, we see a warrior who postpones a fight until after the Yuletide. Some practitioners of the northern tradition will even opt to completely withdraw and go MIA from online and social media so they can stay focused on spending the Yuletide with friends and family. While it's not always an option for everyone, there are some that are able to use vacation time or working for themselves and be able to do so. I can't imagine people going MIA from their phones, their computers, their tablets, and everything now. But that is very heartwarming. An interesting tradition for this holiday is Wassail, heilsa, are all different versions of the same root word across a few different languages, though the origin can be traced back to the Nordic people. This word is essentially relating to health, prosperity, and luck, which was used as a type of greeting, kind of like slancha. Not only would you use the word to greet someone, but the greeting also had the implication that you wish them good health. During the Yuletide, there's a specific type of beverage called Wassail, or my pronunciation, Wassail. I'm not sure the actual correct pronunciation. Be sure to check out my video. I will link that in the bio as well. Last year I did a video of how I make my wassail, and it is delicious. Now the video does not have adult beverages. You add that after it's done making. This drink would vary depending on who makes it, but it was meant to be alcoholic. I use a spiced rum in mine, and it's fabulous, with some fruit juices in it and other seasonings to help fortify good health and fortune to all who consumed it for the year ahead. Have you ever heard the Christmas carol, "Here we come wassailing among the eaves of green"? That's where the tradition comes from, apparently. The wishing of good health and the drinking of wassail during the Yuletide celebrations. One of my favorite drinks, most definitely. Now, I YouTubed this song. If you're able to listen to the whole thing, more power to you. It was like a terrible song to me. Anyway, in some specific areas, those that went wassailing from lower class would go singing to those of greater wealth, and the higher wealth households was supposed to give wassail to the carolers. So a little bit about how it's celebrated today. And this is very little, because again, I try to keep my videos relatively short. So this is like, I can't even say small amount. During this time of year, many pagans honor a wide variety of deities, including Thor, who some believe is where the myth of Santa came from. In Europe, a new candle lighting tradition has arisen among some modern-day pagans that also translates to sun-weight candles. The concept acts sort of like a countdown approaching Yule. The candles usually connect to the first 6 runic letters of the folklore, 1 rune a week as you approach the winter solstice. Next year, when I'm aware of this sooner, I plan to do this. Those candles are really cool, so I totally support the new tradition. In Scandinavia, they still leave food out, usually porridge with butter, for the little red kappa, roughly translates to household spirit or house elves, and thus we have the tradition of leaving food out, usually cookies, for Father Christmas, who in Sweden is called jultomte, the Yule elf. If you have a Yule altar, it is common for it to face north, decorated with holly and mistletoe. Though fair warning, if you have cats, dogs, well, animals, don't use mistletoe where the animals can get it. It is poisonous. The dried leaves and fruits. We're going to try that sentence again. If you have a Yule altar, it is common for it to face north, decorated with holly and mistletoe and dried leaves and fruits. With animals, no mistletoe. A chalice of appropriate wine, mead, or cider. The Yule log with up to 13 candles, green, white, and red candles, decorated with carvings, runes, or symbols, is placed centrally on the altar. The appropriate fragrance of incense burning and scenting the air. Samples are bay, juniper, cedar, pine, or rosemary. Those are all very good. And if you have allergies, like I do, you don't have to do the incense burning. You can plan ahead and make a room spray and just kind of spritz it around the room. That is always lovely. But yes, that is the little bit about where Yule came from, what it is, and how Christmas took over. Like I said in the beginning, I do have a video about the history of Christmas. I will link in the bio, and the one about the Yule log and the wassail. I'll link all 3 of those in my description for this video if y'all are interested in watching. And being we are so close to the winter solstice, I probably won't have time to get another winter solstice video posted, but know there are more to come. But anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for coming. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button and the little bell. I would love for you to be able to watch all my other new videos. Thanks again, and until next time.